We're unmuted.
Good evening and welcome to the Corporate Planning Committee meeting for Tuesday, July 13th. I'll call the meeting to order and note that all members of council are present. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interests? Move to approval of agenda. Can I have a mover? Moved by Pat. All in favor? Agenda is approved. Thank you. We do have a presentation this evening. On the line is Greg Sadweir from Canis, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. They're going to, along with Darian and Alicia Sprang, and they'll be talking about a rural youth arts program in Wawa. So welcome, and we'll let you start.
Okay. Hello, can you hear me?
We can. Welcome.
Awesome. Thank you. Welcome to all of you from Grand Bend. So we're in Grand Bend, Ontario, and we're right now on our Southwestern tour, connecting with rural communities about youth rural arts and providing programs and opportunities for youth with the arts. Actually, we're doing exactly the same sort of thing that we did exactly a year ago. When we came up 1 year ago, we came to Wawa, and we started engaging with artists and educators and community leaders and students in Wawa. Our organization is a nonprofit arts organization that works with youth specifically in rural communities in Ontario. And what we want to do is we want to provide opportunities. We want to provide experiences. We want to provide mentorship, leadership opportunities, training, education, so that youth who are especially artistically gifted, talented, passionate, can have access to the same opportunities, advantages, resources that other youth throughout Ontario have. And so, our experience in Wawa has been really groundbreaking for us, because Wawa was the first place that we actually took our model. We took our work on the road, and Wawa was the beginning. It was sort of the birth of our Backroad Arts Collective. And Backroad Arts Collective is our initiative that collectively sort of provides a structured community and network for communities throughout Ontario, so that communities throughout Ontario will become a part of the network community of Backroad Arts Collective, and so that we can connect youth, connect their mentors, their arts educators, their teachers, their parents. We can all create a community Ontario-wide that is united with the mission of supporting youth in the arts. This summer, we've already done 1 week of camp, day camp down in Haliburton, which is where we're based. I'm honestly gonna pass it over, because it's really not about me. I'm going to pass it to our assistant director, who is Darian. And Darian's going to just share a little bit about his experience with our organization, and more specifically, his experience with connecting with Wawa and coming up to Wawa and connecting with other students. So I will just pass it behind to him. We're in the middle. Well, we're on the edge of a thunderstorm. So if we have to run to our car, and this might be a first for council, I'm not sure. But if we run, then we'll just go to our car. But here's Darian.
Hi guys. I'm Darian, the assistant director of Camexicanis Backward Arts Collective. I joined Camexicanis last summer after I'd met Greg through the school in the guitar program. I'd never really been involved in the arts before. I was more, I just kind of played hockey and did my thing around my hometown. But once I joined Camexicanis, I really kind of started to explore the different arts and explore my own art, which is like, guitar and music in general and acting. Going to Wawa was a huge eye opener. Honestly, we'd been to a couple towns prior to Wawa, and it was just they were just kind of ghost towns. No one really showed up to our meetings. We had a couple of people who seemed excited here and there, but not really like any kind of big group. And when we got to Wawa, we got to the park there in town, and there was tons of people. There was probably 30 people there, and almost instantly we felt that like we were welcomed. It felt right, if that makes sense. Yeah. And I've met a lot of people. I've met Alicia and Abby, who are now good friends of mine. I've met a lot of other people in Wawa, a lot of people that I know, cousins of theirs that live down my area in Halliburton. So all around, it's just been a great learning experience for me. I've seen parts of Ontario that I never would have seen before. So basically for me, it's just been about connections, about learning, about teaching. Now I'm in a teaching role, so I get to mentor younger kids and share with them the things I've learned from my mentors. So I guess I'll pass it on to Abby and Alicia so that they can share what they've experienced here in their time with us.
All right. Hello. I'm Alicia. This is Abby.
Hi.
We're based in Wawa. We're the Wawa Mexican team. Sorry. Oh, also with Tiana Morden, who is the administrative worker. We are now here in Grand Bend traveling with Greg and Darian and Brooklyn, doing this tour, which is a complete eye-opener, game changer for us, because I've never been down this area. You've lived down here before.
I lived in Kitchener for most of my life until 3 years and moved to Wawa.
Yeah, she had a pretty crazy experience, and she's crazy musically talented, and she gets to share that with so many others. And being from a rural community is more of a disadvantage when it comes to the arts, because we don't have as many opportunities. But when these guys came up, they really brought some stuff to the town, which is incredible. And they brought so many opportunities for youth, doing camps and opening up so many more opportunities for them. It really allowed them to be more creative, I find, and that it also really helped the community be more welcoming. You want to add something?
I've not been in Wawa for long, only like 3 years, but I do agree with that we should bring more arts and more like programs to the kids in Wawa, because there's not that much to do other than sports like hockey or like skating or dancing, but I think it'd be nice to bring arts to kids. Yeah.
It's getting a little bit stormy. We might move to the car. Yeah, we'll probably move to the car right now.
To the car.
Thank you for your presentation. We'll talk to you when you're back in Wawa. Be safe. Look at it. More like a tornado.
I'm enjoying this. I shall get in on this side.
Yeah, it'll be on the weather network tomorrow morning. Well, that was wonderful, and it's
Here we are.
great. Oh, great. I'm glad you're safe.
Yeah, we're safe and sound now. It's been, I don't know what the weather's been like in Wawa, but we have had probably the craziest weather that I've ever experienced in July in Southern Ontario. But yeah, we just wanted to just give you the opportunity to meet some of our students, and especially the students that are from your community. much better than a Zoom call. I'm sure most of you are aware on council. We are going to be coming back with these two and joining the rest of our team in Wawa July 25th. Then July 26th, we run a week of day camps in Wawa. So we are super excited to come up to your community and for a whole week. We now have about 45 kids, and we might add a few more, but we are going to be able to put on a great week of programming for the kids in Wawa, and we hope to see some of you and connect with you. We can do some outdoor meetings, and you can meet our kids and learn a little bit more about what we're doing. So thanks so much for the opportunity.
Thank you, Greg. Can you just tell us some of the activities that you'll be doing with the kids in Wawa?
Yeah, so Wawa's been super great with partnerships. So day camp is we're using facilities at Calvary Church. Pastor Clinton has been just amazing in allowing us to use space for free. So we're going to be able to, we have to have cohorts, because we have to cohort the kids for COVID guidelines, but we're going to be doing a full day of arts activities. So they'll be learning different arts, drama, dance, music, visual art, video. They'll be doing sports. We'll have lots of sports activities. And then throughout the evenings, our staff and other youth that we've connected with, especially high school aged youth who are too old for day camp, we'll be doing evening activities like hiking at Nokomis and going out to MFN and connecting with that community. And just basically just making connections. We're building relationships with the youth.
Well, it sounds like youth in Wawa are going to have a great week, and we want to thank you for your presentation tonight. And certainly I will drop by to see you, and I'm sure the other counselors are very interested in this program and would like to catch it actually live and see what you're doing with the kids from Wawa. So again, thank you, and we look forward to seeing you at the end of July.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Okay, stay safe.
We will.
We will.
Have a good day.
That was very nice. That was that's something. Kathy, did you want to give a bit more idea? I know we were first introduced that by was it Annika talked about that?
Annalisa had spoken about
Annalisa,
it,
right?
yeah. I don't know much about the program. I just knew that a program was occurring in Wawa with some of the local youth, and it was directly dealing with the arts programs.
Yeah. So when we were having discussions with the community safety and well-being plan, we were talking about activities for youths to keep youths involved, and this is when this topic came up, and so I'm certainly glad Kathy followed through and made arrangements for us to meet Craig, and hopefully anybody watching on YouTube tonight, maybe we'll have more people sign up for this particular program. So well, there are 40 some applicants. That has to be advertised somewhere. I'm not sure. They said they've got close to 45 signed up for that week, so that's pretty good.
Facebook. There's got lots on Facebook.
So thank you. We'll move on to number 4. 5, adoption of minutes. These are the minutes of the June 15th meeting. I get Bill to move it. All in favor? It's carried. There's no business arising. New business 7.1. Councillor Hatfield, you have a verbal report regarding program or
Yes, I do.
report. Go ahead.
I'm not sure if this is on, but you can hear me, right? It was the first time I attended an online meeting with the minister. She was really, really nice. But I can't emphasize enough how many communities have challenges with counselors. There must have been 15, 20 communities on there, and I couldn't believe what everybody was saying. And then they asked me, they said, well, what kind of problems do you have with your counselors? I said, we don't have problems like that. Oh, and everybody just went dead. because we're not doing what they're doing. They said, we all agree running for council is the #1 challenge. The knowledge you think you have, you soon learn is not enough for a long time. Minister Dunlop agreed that living in a small town and knowing everyone is a challenge on its own. The problems several communities have are similar. Councillors don't take accountability serious enough. Code of conduct was questioned. All attendees wanted much more done on penalties. It should be covered several times a year. Councillors being rude at meetings happens quite regularly. I said that didn't happen in Wawa. Councillors going to staff and telling them what to do was a very, very big problem. 9 communities, and they didn't know how to stop it. The big question everyone left at the table was, who should fire the councillor, the people or council? And basically, that's what it was all about. Code of conduct, we should know more about it. She asked me, how would you learn from a code of conduct? And I said, well, reading other code of conducts, other people that had challenges is a really good way of learning. But I said, having meetings on the code of conduct a lot, but I didn't really know how to comment on those other things since we didn't have that problem. I find our council is very, everybody gets along. It's just really, really great. Their problems were overwhelming. So I just sat and listened to them. But it was good. And now that minister got changed. I have no idea who the new minister is. It just changes all the time. But she said she was going to look into it and do a report. So that, I'm anxious to hear what she has to say.
Now, some of those issues you're talking about, you see reports on television, articles in newspapers, it can get pretty heated in some communities. And that's why it's important, I guess, to have strong policies to be able to keep everything in line. It's extremely important. But you need to understand your policies and know them. It's one thing to have them, but be familiar with them and use them. So thank you for that. I'm glad you enjoyed that.
Thank you.
Item 7.2, we have a report from Manuela on the optional small business property subclass.
Good evening, everyone. Back in November of 2020, the provincial budget announced a subclass for small businesses. It was an optional subclass. And so this report is really to just detail some information regarding that program. There's no financial implications to this report, and there's no recommendation to move forward. It's really just for information. So part of the problem, or some of the key points to consider when looking at the adoption of a small business property tax class are, how would we define a small business? So it would be up to council to define who is a small business and who is not a small business. So where would you draw that line? Some ways you could do that is look at property values, number of employees, geographic area, like who belongs to a BIA, who doesn't belong to the BIA, sales revenue by company, square footage of a building. You could, any one or more of those criteria would work. The problem with some of those is administering them, how you have to review them annually. Pardon me, to make sure that the properties continued to be acceptable as a small business. Another thing to consider is a property has tenants in it. So the tenants might be a large or medium-sized business in Ontario. I think I use T-Baytel as an example. So T-Baytel is right across Northern Ontario, so they're a fairly large business or company. But most often they lease in small areas from maybe a small business owner. So they wouldn't fall in that catchment. If they would get the benefit of a reduced tax rate, they're really not a small business. So how do you make that fair? Self-employed individuals would probably fall through the cracks because a lot of them work from home. If somebody was doing yard care or bookkeeping or that type of business, they wouldn't qualify because we wouldn't, they wouldn't be in a commercial building, they'd be in a residential building. So consideration would need to be given to how would you maintain the assessment roll. the assessment roll is maintained by MPAC, and they use a set of criteria that's equal across all municipalities. So they would have to look at 444 different bylaws if everybody did this. And there was, so would they buy into this program and would they agree? I would guess that they would want some kind of consistent common approach across all of the municipalities. A list of properties would have to be provided to MPAC in order to help maintain the assessment roll. There would be decreased tax rates to small businesses, would lead to the possibility of assessment review board appeals, because people would think that maybe the bylaw wasn't properly applied, or a bylaw they thought would apply to them doesn't apply to them. So it just opens us up for more appeals and legal battles that way. It would definitely create a tax shift. So by lowering the tax levy in one area, we would have to, or the percentage of the levy in one area, we would have to increase it in other areas. So it would impact all tax classes, including the residential. So there would be less of a burden to the businesses and a bigger burden maybe to some of the employees of those businesses. The whole thought was COVID. I think it was an assistance with COVID to try to help properties. And in a larger area that might work, I think about Sault Ste. Marie or Thunder Bay or any other larger community has Walmarts, has industry, has big box stores, and those are big commercial tax bases. We just don't have that. Even our big businesses are small in comparison to those. So I just don't see how it would work here. We do currently we always have helped our businesses with our banding system. So when you look at our commercial taxation, the first 50,000 of assessment is calculated at 75% of the tax rate. The next 50,000 at 85% of the tax rate, and anything over that at 100% of the tax rate. So that's applied consistently across all commercial properties, and it helps all the businesses in those properties. So it's a fair and equitable way to really reduce some burden for those properties. The other thing to consider is this was thought of by the provincial government as a COVID, to help reduce some of the COVID impacts. But there are a lot of programs that are already out there, both provincially and federally, that help reduce the COVID impact to businesses specifically that really aren't well, I guess there's this small program for people that have lost their jobs, but there's also the programs such as the PPE, the property tax and energy bill rebates. And that was one that really stuck with me, because why would we reduce property taxes when they're getting the property tax credit through these programs? So it's not that we don't want to reduce property tax, but why would we shift that burden to somebody else? That there are other avenues here to help those businesses. And I think we've been pretty transparent and really forthcoming in trying to make sure that anyone that approached us, we made them aware that these are opportunities for them, every opportunity we have. So I think that just in brief, that's all there is, unless anybody has questions.
Do you have any questions for me, Ron? I would think that if you introduce that, managing it would be an incredible task. I don't think it would justify the hours that you would have to put in.
It would be an enormous amount of hours on the staff, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Your semi-annual financial report.
So I'll just continue to the next one. Sorry, my voice a little bit hoarse. So this is just our semi-annual report as of June 30th. So the first thing I looked at were some of the financial indicators, and it says 2019 in the report. So the FIR is always a year behind. We're just filing our 2020s now. So this is the most current data we have. And there was 2 levels of risk that were identified, and they've been identified for several years now. And we've been really taking steps to try to reduce that actually quite aggressively this year. The 2 of the areas were taxes receivable and cash ratio. So taxes receivable are the uncollectible percentage of the total taxes levied. So it's the taxes that we've not been able to collect for whatever reasons. So in 2021, part of the reason we increased probably last year was COVID, because we couldn't implement a lot of these things, because with COVID we just halted on all of those types of activities to try to give some relief to everybody. So in 2021, not that long ago, the provincial restrictions were lifted and we restarted the tax registration process. So some of those properties have paid in full, and then we've made some agreements and arrangements with others. In addition to that, we really wanted to address our second year properties. So even though we haven't changed our bylaw to start sending second year arrears to registration, the Municipal Act does allow for that. And if council ever did want to make that change, that would be a big burden on a lot of people. And we wanted to really address that sooner rather than later. And obviously, the less you owe, the easier it is to address it. So the longer we leave it, the more difficult it becomes for people to address their situations. So for those reasons, we wanted to really look at that second year. So we applied the changes that we've made to the collection policy and sent out letters saying either give us a call and make some arrangements, or we have no choice but to send you to collections. And I think probably about 90% of those properties responded. And from January to June, we've now collected 132,000 of that area, or approximately 49% of those taxes have been collected. And actually, I think I had 3 more since I wrote this report, so we're a little bit higher than that. So it's been really successful, and people are actually quite pleased that they were able to address their taxes and alleviate their fears, because now they have a way by which to move forward. So it was a good program. The cash ratio is the other area of concern. The cash ratio really shows us, it's a cash ratio, shows us our liquidity, how much cash we have available. If we were to have to pay all of our current liabilities today, would we be able to do it? Really is what this measurement tells us. And our risk is high. Good reason. It does trend with the taxes receivable. So if we're not collecting all the monies owed to us, we don't have all the monies required to pay out what we need to pay on a daily basis. So in addressing the taxes receivable that I just spoke about, we've also really addressed this cash ratio at all as well, because it trends downward with this. The other thing we did to help alleviate this last year was we introduced the surplus deficit policy. And what this does is it leaves, rather than leaving money in a slush fund, it's putting it actually into a short-term investment locally as a percentage of our surplus to help address this operating concern. So those two things should, in the next year to 2 years, see us out of this high level of risk. So the remainder of the report is just where are we at as far as revenues and expenses at the midway point. So business improvement area and administration really have no change over last year. Where we expect to be. The BIA kept their levy at a minimum this year to continue to help and support the local businesses. And administration is always a risk due to the hydro dam payment. We really don't know what's going to happen till August, September. So that's never going to be out of the report until we get some kind of concrete response from the government about those payments. One investment is an area of concern for us. So the local investments are doing very well. And but the one investments, unfortunately, they're made up of money market and bonds. And they were invested quite a few years ago. And the principals are tied to these programs. So because of COVID, the market is very volatile, both in bonds and in the money market. And quite often we're seeing negative results rather than income. So we're losing money in this program, and the local investments are actually offsetting it. So we're right around zero. I think we budgeted for about 120,000. I'm not expecting to see that. And I'm grateful that we're holding at zero and not losing money. So we've lost budget, but we've not lost dollars. Animal control, much like last year, we don't have an animal control officer, so we won't see any expenses or revenues there. Community emergency measures, we got some additional COVID money that we weren't expecting, so that was nice. Transit money is in, so we're almost at full budget there. Water and sewer shows a big variance. This is due to the timing of the bills. And this will be repetitive every year as well. We can't change the timing. MMCC, the revenues, obviously, because of COVID, it's big impact. It's been closed, I think, probably 90% of the first 6 months. It's been closed, if not 100. So we can't expect to see any revenues there other than maybe a little bit of grant revenue. which is more on the capital side. Tourism, same thing, there's no revenues because the facilities are closed. So into the expenditures, the first 4 are pretty much the same as last year: administration, fire department, animal control, police services board. There's no real concerns. There have been some impacts due to COVID, and there's variances just based on the timing of some payments. Infrastructure, transfers from reserve. Also, we won't see any big amounts showing here until the 3rd and 4th quarter, just because of the nature of infrastructure. Most of the work is done in the spring and summer. More so, I think, the preparation in the spring and the big work in the summer months. So Mishpacotton Community Center, or the arena, the community center and arena, although they don't have any revenue, they did have a fair amount of expenses because they really did a lot of work to maintain the facility and make some improvements and work on programs for in the future for when we do open up. And they also had quite a bit of work to do in COVID reopening plans and rewriting those plans many times as things change provincially. The drag races, again, didn't happen this year because COVID, so hopefully we'll see that back next year. And then planning and development, there was a substantial difference from the budgeted amount in 2020. In 2020, we had something unique happen. I think you're more familiar than me what it was, but there was a big bump upwards or an upswing in 2020 and for that reason, in the hopes that planning would continue into 2021, we left that budget higher. We've not seen it yet. Hopefully we will before the end of the year. Tourism, a decision was made earlier by council to keep the Tourist Information Center closed because of COVID. So we're not seeing a lot of expenses there other than the ones we'd expect to see: hydro insurance, those types of things. As stated previously, revenue expenses for capital, really those funds will hit in the 3rd quarter. And as far as we see from what we've heard, everything is really where it should be, and our projects are moving forward. So I know the infrastructure projects are moving. There's been work on school zone. We've met with Watson for the long-term financial plan. There's quite a few of the projects are moving forward nicely, and we'll see them as time goes on. If I do a report in 3 months, you'll see numbers there then, I'm sure. So in summary, really, we don't have any major concerns. We've recognized and addressed the risks that we've had historically. To really, I think that's one of the biggest obstacles for us is to, when you look back at the financial indicator review and I attached it to the report, you can see there was a trend there, and we're really working to, everywhere else we're doing very well. So we want a full report card of stars. Yep. And that's it, unless anyone has questions.
When do we receive the financial indicator report from the ministry? When does that come?
It usually comes the year after. It's usually around February that I sit down, or either Maury or I or both of us sit down with our advisor from MNAH.
Yeah, okay.
I have a comment.
Mm-hmm.
When my husband passed away, Manuela, things in my life were very, very difficult, and I got behind in my taxes. And the only reason I was able to catch up is because working with you and Heather was the only reason I got caught up, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Mitch. That's nice to hear. And that really was the last thing anybody wants to do, is take a home. So anything we can do to make, within the bylaws, obviously within the bylaws, to put agreements in place to help people. And you're right, it's difficult. And for a lot of people, it's embarrassing, right? Who wants to come forward, and especially if you've had a good life or successful life, to say, I'm struggling. It's a hard thing. How do people come forward and say, I'm struggling? It's humbling and it's hard to do. So if we can put programs in place to make that easier, to bridge, to make a bridge between us and them, where we can help them.
Because what you've collected from January till now is amazing.
Yeah, thank you.
Good. Yes, thank you. Appreciate the report.
Thanks.
That's great information. Certainly help councillors in our job and understanding finances of the community and making decisions. It's great to have that background. Moving to 7.4, the speeds by traffic studies. If you remember a few years ago when Rutland was on the Police Services Board, we recommended to council that we invest in speed spy. I think it was a little over $3,000 around that. It's was turned over to the OPP who run it and use it. And on several occasions, it's been used in different parts of the community to just see what the traffic volume is and what the speed of the vehicles are. I was very surprised by this particular report, by some of the speeds, which 103 kilometers an hour on Churchill Avenue is not something I want to see. And the other thing is the volume. One on the south side, was it just under 10,000? So certainly when we look at our investment in the community school safety zone, we realize that if we can make that area safer, we certainly need to work in that direction. And one of the things out of that, and one of the comments made, is that we, as a school safety zone, we could change that speed limit to 40. And if you change it to 40, then anybody traveling 55 or higher will be ticketed. And that will help encourage safety by discouraging people from speeding in that area. So lovely tool, great information. It's the type of data that you need when you sit down and make decisions as counselors. I don't know if anybody else has another comment, or Maury, if you want to.
I would just add the comment that with the recent changes with the provincial government and the Highway Traffic Act, any posted speed under 80 kilometers an hour, if you're going 40 kilometers over the posted speed limit, you're considered speed
Stunt driving?
stunt driving. So anyone that would be traveling 80 kilometers or over could be charged then with stunt driving on Churchill, which is not, in my opinion, a bad thing.
Well, you must see them coming. Yeah, I
The
live
only
in
thing that
Churchill.
scares me is when I'm 3/4 of the way out of my driveway, and I do watch a lot, but it's when they come around that corner, they come around so fast.
Yeah,
And I thought, oh,
there's a lot of blind spots. Yeah. But if we can encourage people to take it easy, we'll all be safer. So
one more comment for that. I was approached for working with an OPP. He made a comment that the speed limit going out of town at 70 before Tim Hortons is to take that sign out and just move it after the entrance, and you might save an accident. That accident happened there before. Just a comment he made that he wanted me to bring it up to the council.
But I think that's MTO's decision. We don't, from Chris Simon Drive to the Goose, MTO makes all the decisions. But I certainly agree with you because, why would it not be on the other side of the entrance? Because you don't want cars starting to speed up before that. But it's a letter we can write to MTO saying, and maybe it might be something that can be brought up that we still have some police services board meeting, bring that up there with a recommendation. If you make the recommendation to council, then council, when they send a letter to MTO, can quote the recommendation coming from the police services boards.
They were suggesting that we make the whole town of Wawa 40.
Yeah, I'd like that.
That was from, sorry, I'm forgetting his name. The commander right now.
That's an excellent idea.
Bodie?
Rich.
Yeah.
Yes, sorry, yeah, I forgot.
Yeah.
We're just hoping, we're hoping, Ron, that on Third Avenue, that camera would go up because it's my street and there's a lot of kids in that street now. And the traffic is humongous on A Street down, and it's fast traffic down there.
We'll get your police services board members, Robert, Lynette, and Chris, that have brought up, because we've had it before, just up from the United Church, did we not, in one area, we put it at one time. To get, people were concerned about traffic as I was whipping around now. We're concerned about that corner and that exit, people going out, saying the kind of problem that she's referring to, that they thought cars coming up, where we're traveling too quickly for that turn, so. And what it does is it gives you a whole pile of, data. How many cars, and what they're traveling at. So-
Same thing coming in from the east, Chapel Way. That one little pathway that they go up and down their vehicles nonstop, like right now. And you pull up there, you can't even see. Like it's all bush looking out towards the east.
Yeah.
And there's vehicles that go down there, and they put their sea-doos in there. And there's lots go down there. It's a dangerous spot there.
Yeah. I had an experience actually this afternoon when I was coming into town. And I was just ready to move into, you know, where they put that little jog to make a left-hand turn going to Chris Simon Drive. I was just ready to pull in there, and the car was making a right-hand turn onto Chris Simon Drive, and the car behind him just pulled out, stepped on the gas, and that lane basically ends.
Yes.
If I'd have been another 2 seconds, I'd have been sitting in that lane and he would come right at me. So it almost needs something written on the lane saying, you know, lane ends. So there isn't a lane. Now, normally we can pass on the left. There's nothing coming. It was a scary.
You're not supposed to use that center lane for passing.
No.
It says right on the signs.
Yeah, exactly. But not everybody knows that right yet.
No, I mean, it's, well, I don't know if they're out of town or locals, but yeah, all the town people use it. We have the flashers going now as well.
So they are going. Someone said to me,
I seen the news. We did a few tests to see if anybody actually saw them before just going right through.
No,
I'm
Shannon and
told-
Todd, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Shannon and Todd were walking and they pushed it, immediately somebody stopped.
Yeah, it became more familiar the second time.
I think we should contact the radio station, and even if we're putting out even get ads to say they're activated, so people will watch out for them. Because I had a grandparent mention to me today that their grandson tried to cross and cars never stopped. They didn't see the flashing light,
You know
or
what,
just aren't ready to use, to be aware of them.
Mr. Rader, too, a lot of people are used to looking up, but those lights are right down on the surface. And I said to Shannon and Todd, I said, why did they do that? It's the same thing you see.
Yeah.
It's no different.
Yeah.
I
The
said,
Sioux's
"Oh,
got the same.
yeah,
But what I found with them, the cars stopped, but people crossed, and they went through the intersection before the lights come off. You're supposed to wait till the lights come off.
Yeah.
it wouldn't hurt to say that.
Yeah.
So it's gonna take some education and time.
Well, even before, you weren't, well, we had the 4 lanes. People would take off before the processing guard actually walked off the roads, and that was illegal as well. So we'll have to educate the public and keep it safe. So anyway, a great tool, and Bill will try to get it in that area of town for you. Sure.
Mr. Mayor, did you want to report on the government road study too? That one was attached as well.
Sure. You ready to give it?
Sure.
Okay.
So the speed limit on government road is 40 kilometers. They recorded 3,857 vehicles in that area. They found that the average speed was 38 kilometers per hour. The highest speed recorded was 85 kilometers an hour. Approximately 100 of those vehicles that were utilizing that road were traveling at least 20 kilometers over the speed limit, which represents about 2.5% of all the vehicles traveling were over the speed limit by 20. And it does appear that there is a speeding issue on Government Road. So they're going to target some patrolling in that area as well.
So if you asked why was it 40 on Government Road, that I believe the concern, and it was a good 20 years ago, what was that when DOD was operating, there was a lot of traffic with heavy vehicles, and they were concerned about that. So unless the whole community goes to 40, would there be a reason for Garden Road to stay at 40, or should it go to 50? It would eliminate some of the problems. Not everybody would be speeding, and there isn't the truck traffic that at the time some of the families that lived there were very concerned about. So,
I don't know.
when we look at the whole situation across the community, if we're going to make changes in around the school zones, we may want to look at adding some 40s and taking away some 40s, or making it all 40, you know, whatever it comes.
We're a little bit rough to drive 80 kilometers an hour. Just a shake.
I will review with Dan Beach the previously completed traffic studies that Crescent Engineering and another firm had completed last year, and have Dan report back to council around the recommended idea of switching the speed limit to 40 kilometers. Or report to council at a future date.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you. 7.6 report for the month of April from Dan. Dan, are you on the line and ready to give your report?
Yes, I am.
Go ahead.
I'm gonna give a brief just on my capital projects. So as you know, the school zone project was awarded to Provo Contracting. They are scheduled to begin this month in July. The Connecting Link project, the line planing was completed, and the crosswalks, the PXO lights, were put into service. There has been some minor infractions with them. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. We're working on fixing those and getting rid of the signs, or moving the signs to allow people to see them more readily. We, the contractor, myself, and Crescent Engineering did a walk around, and some minor infractions were found, and they are to be remedied before the final completion. Water main valves. The water main valves between Caver Hill and McKinley were replaced with some water line to complete the loop. So that's all finished up. The paving was done. Woodland Cemetery expansion. We're working with Pynchon Engineering to survey the new area, and we're having a design proposed with columbariums and a new thought for preset monument supports, so that we don't have to keep putting concrete in the ground. The concrete will all be there, with the possibility of just putting the headstones right there, like a preset position. And that's what we're working on right at the moment for our my capital projects. Any
I wanted to
comments?
ask you a question about the cemetery, because right, so a good 15, 20 years ago, when that area was cleared, one of the things that was mentioned to me by the director at that particular time was that according to, I guess, part of the Cemetery Act, that it had to be free of trees for at least 10 years. And that's why it was completely cleared off. But I noticed a lot of the trees are regrowing. Is there plans on stripping all that down and getting it back to no trees in the area?
Yes, we're going to have to start stripping that back down again.
Okay. And the idea of the preset bases for the monuments, I think that's an excellent idea, because one of the concerns we've had in the past, particularly when there was some winter burials, was that we never kept things in a straight line in terms of some of the rows. And then as you know, the cemetery gets to be 60-70% filled, you have an issue with moving equipment back and forth, putting goes up on an individual, you know, one at a time. So I think to do it when you're there, it'd be so much easier to set up all those forms and pour that cement, and then you know exactly where every plot is. I think it's a great idea. Certainly have my support on that one.
Thank you.
Yes, you have a question from Councillor Hatfield?
Dan, did Crescent Engineering say anything about the line painting?
A little bit. The yellow line is supposed to get a second coat put on it to make it a little bit more visible.
Yeah, thank you.
I had a comment from a ratepayer saying that our own line painting machine causes fuzzy edges. Is it an equipment that we need to buy, get a new one, or what's your impression on that?
It's just trial and error every year. We just have to fine tune things as we go on. So that's why we try to do the beachfront first and then work on Broadway to get it
Sounds
set up.
good. I could still find the 2 lines and get in the middle, so no problem. Okay. Are there any other questions for Dan? Dan, did you want to speak about other things, or was that your main presentation?
Well, that was pretty much what I wanted to talk about.
Very good. Oh, I wanted to ask you, with regards to cemetery, you said the water's turned on there. Have you had the opportunity to do some watering out there since it's been such a dry summer?
No, we haven't. We're having issues with our big sprinkler that's out there. Yep.
All right. Well, it's going to rain all day Thursday, so I'll take care of it. Okay. Well, thanks very much, Dan. Appreciate that. Yeah, keep up great work.
Okay, thank you.
7. Where are we now? I skipped over Alex's report was removed.
It was removed.
Yeah.
He was on vacation, so it wasn't
Okay.
prepared.
Very good. So 7.7 then. Anders.
Good evening.
Report.
Just give you guys a brief overview of what the municipality has gone over in our network security over the past 7 months. A few of the highlights, we finished our Windows 7 to Windows 10 conversion at the user level, so our security level is where it should be now in that standard. This was done in the fall of 2020. We implemented a password policy where it's mandatory we have 8 characters. And starting on July 26th, after I'm back for a week, we will be pushing out from the firewall where it is now mandatory that every 6 months, the users will have to change a password. I'm sorry. And we have our new servers installed as well. Those are all running. They are replicating each other for server redundancy, so that if one server does go down, we may notice a minute of downtime, flick the switch, and the other one picks it up, and we may not even notice that we are down. I won't. We have installed VPNs as well with the firewall. So that way we're eliminating a third-party software for remote access. So staff that do want to work from home or do need it, I'm available to set it up, and I have set it up on a few. Our backups are running on one of our virtual machines on our servers as well. We have an airspace now, which means that right now we have a backup that is running and a backup that is stored here. And I also have a third one as well. So any given time, if something does occur, at latest, we will only be a week of data lost, if that. We moved from Microsoft Exchange to Office 365 for our emails. That's helped with security. That has helped with spam, email encryption, and mail flow. Before we moved this, we were having issues with sending and receiving certain emails. That has now been all remedied, and so far it's been going okay that I can see. Our wireless networks, we have 2 new ones here, or 1 new one here, but 2 at different access points. They are the same as 3 Maple and at the fire hall. So if you were to be here, you can pick up 3 Maple. If you're at 3 Maple, you can pick up here now. This allows us all to work on the domain wirelessly as it should. That is the Coles Notes version. the staff have been incredible with all this. Their diligence in not clicking everything has been incredible. And their patience with all these changes that usually should take over a year, we've compressed into 6 months. It was stressful. It was hard, especially on them, but they were extremely patient, understanding. So without them being as patient as they were, it couldn't have gone any smoother with them. So that's where we are right now. And it's going to be an ongoing process to make sure that our networks do stay secure.
Great.
If there's any
Thank
questions.
you. Any questions? Off-site backup?
Yes,
All secure?
it is. I won't say where it is. I can say it off camera, but.
One thing I was hoping to hear from you.
Yeah, and I guess on that note too, I am working on a disaster recovery relief plan, so that if something does happen like it has in the past, that we are ready to go.
Thank you.
And if I have any more problems with the not authorized for this, I'm Brendan, see you, what is coming here?
MC.
Thank you.
Anders, how are you finding the company you're working with? They seem to be going well.
Absolutely incredible. If I want you right now, I can message them, and within a minute or two, one of them will respond back to me. Yeah, they've been very, very thorough with anything I've asked for. Yeah.
I have to admit, Anders, on Sunday when I was in reading my package, I looked at the agenda, I said, AD, report from AD. They hired somebody, I had to look at the content and then,
I like that, under the radar.
Yeah. So excellent report, and there's a lot of good work being done, and of course, we can't be successful without the support of all our staff, and I appreciate the comments you made about the staff and how they've worked with you. Appreciate that very much. So thank you. And CC, I know who CC is. Kathy Sear, the report on Provincial Offences Office waiver of fees.
So,
Perhaps you can give a little bit of background as to who we pay these fees to, who runs this as well. Maybe you're planning on doing that.
yes, so provincial offenses is operated by the Sault Ste. Marie Provincial Offences Office. So they actually run the court services here in Wawa, and they come to Wawa once a month, and generally they're here one, sometimes 2 days out of the month. But generally it's only 1 day a month, and they come here anywhere from 10 to 12 days per year. Now, due to COVID, all court was postponed, or it ceased to operate until they knew how they were going to proceed with court hearings. So what had happened in 2020, provincial court was here for a total of 5 days. The city of Sault Ste. Marie pays their rent in advance, so they'll pay for the entire year for the rental of this facility. So what they have done now is come back to us and asked for a refund of a portion of the rent that was paid. And so they're asking for a refund in the amount of $2,112.11. And what they're asking is that they'll pay for 7 days for 2020 when they only used the facility for 5 days. And I recommend that we go ahead and proceed with that. We have heard from the provincial court and the provincial offences court that they are looking at coming back to having court hearings in Wawa. However, most of the hearings will be held virtually. So they will have court staff here set up, individuals that want to come in and plead their case. It would be held through video conferencing. The judge would be in Sault Ste. Marie or wherever, and the court hearing would be held here. And that's coming later in the year.
So the comment at the end of that letter, and unfortunately my computer's not loading up the attachments, but what was it, did it have something to do with the actual physical setting of the court, or is it more because of COVID?
It's because of COVID.
Okay.
But one of the concerns that's always been identified with our facility is that it's not accessible. So this has always been a concern with the provincial court when they come in and they assess our building. They're always looking that our building is not accessible to all because we have the stairs. So that's one of their main concerns with our building. But they know we are working on that, so.
Okay. Great. Any questions on that? So later on, there comes up in the regular that we will approve the refund. Thank you. So the next one is mine. So I just wanted to give a verbal report on the medical recruitment retention committee. Been meeting every second Tuesday morning for the last little while. One of the things that the committee is doing right now is working with a consultant from a law firm to create up memorandum of understanding to be worked out with the hospital and the communities. We've had Duberville and White River involved, Wawa. Some of the mining companies are involved. We've got pledges of funding from mining companies. The task, the hospital has been unsuccessful in landing new doctors so far. What a lot of communities are doing is that they have they hire a person as a recruiter to go out and look for these, be on the phone, promote the community, etc. Marathon has had that person. So we're going to be looking at between everyone, create a 0.5 position. The hospital will carry that person probably on a contract. But the person will be working to recruit health professionals, doctors, and other professionals that we need, and they will be doing it at 50% of the time to work that out. They've had a person like this in Marathon for quite a while, and not only be working on recruitment, but they'll also be helping out with the locums and supporting locums. So it's extremely important to be out there and be available all the time to promote your community. Simply going to big conferences where you get set up and maybe people come by and talk to you doesn't work. We've got to really be on people and set it up. We've put money aside. It's not that we have to go into the budget to find the money. I think we haven't spent that money that's been there for a long time. And so I just want to let you know that imagine they'll be contacting, I'm on the committee, I won't be talking for the municipality, but Maureen will speak with Katie and they'll work out what kind of funding will come from our municipality. It'll be jointly supported by some of the mines, by the other communities. Because the situation in Wawa right now is when you lose two doctors, the doctors as we had move away in April, the ministry will support the local hospital with funding for locums, but for only 6 months. So by mid-October, that 6 months will be up, and that additional money for locums won't be available, which means that if you don't have, can't afford to bring them in, or you don't have them, that puts a heavy burden on the 4 remaining doctors. And there's no guarantee that when that happens, if our ER can be operating 24/7, it puts a lot of stress on everybody. So we're really working hard to make sure we can get people in and hopefully attract doctors to our community. our ER gets 6,000 visits a year. And last week, I asked that we had a request from one of the doctors at the hospital if we had any idea how many, what population was the current population, Wawa, White River, Dubreuilville, Hawk Junction, this and that, the areas, First Nation, that the hospital serves. So we were able to get that information from them, but they also wanted to know how many outside doctors do you have in the region on a weekly basis. So we phoned around to the mines and talked to their HR people, and the numbers were astounding. We just could not believe what the numbers. Kathy, do you remember the total again?
2,100, I looked it up, 2,100 employees working at Alamos, Argonaut, Pioneer, Red Pine, and Ballard, West Dome. We didn't get the numbers completely for White River Forest.
No, we did.
Okay, we did. So that's a total of 1,800 right now, with projections of an additional 400 before the end of this year, with 70% of that being non-regional residents. So the pressures on the hospital are enormous because these are all new potential clients.
Yeah, so it's important information for us to use, but I think we have to take that information and meet with the right ministry people to impress upon them that we're not receiving any revenue to support the services. That particular doctor was saying one day last week, half the people they served in the ER were workers from outside the community that came into the ER. So it's obviously it's impacting on our hospitals. It's impacting, I'm sure, on the ambulance service, and we're not receiving funding to get that. And a lot of the services I think the municipality provides, you know, it's there as well. So
How many doctors do we have?
four plus the locals. Well, we would like to have 6. We lost 2. So extremely important. So just, I imagine when we sign that memorandum of understanding, Maury will probably bring it back to council for council approval. But I'm assuming that we will get support. I think we need this. This is critical. We can do all kinds of wonderful things for our community, but if we don't have enough doctors in our community, that's not a good situation. So a lot of people working hard to resolve that.
I didn't realize there's that many people.
Yeah, those numbers just horrible. But you should know that you lined up for Tim's coffee. There's a lot of people.
I actually feel really bad for that business.
Well, you know what? They gotta go, and what's the old say? Make hay when you can. So the next topic, I just wanted to throw this out tonight, throw some ideas out at you, and perhaps Kathy and Ori, we can get this on the agenda for August and resolve it. So the situation is we have a number of goose prints of the second Wawa goose. And then we also purchased 400 copies of our current goose. So the question becomes, if we've got different options here, we can continue to do things as we do now. When we get a request for goose print, it might be a 50th anniversary, it might be a retirement, it might be one of our employees retiring. And depending on the situation, sometimes it's a framed goose print, sometimes it's just the goose print. We continue to give those out. We might be able to give one to a retiree in the future that's never seen goose number 2, because we have 77 copies left. So what do we want to do with those 77 copies? Because I almost sense that if you're, it's been 2 years now that the current goose has been up, and if someone was to get one, whether is retired from the municipality, and I'm sure if you asked him, do you want one of the current goose or do you want the older one? They would probably say they want the current goose. But one of the options that we could consider is, do we want to set something up where we could provide copies in appreciation for all the work that people in our community have done during this pandemic. There's two bases. One, we have the people who've served us at the hospital and grocery stores and gas stations and you name it, the schools. Find a way of doing that. Also, acknowledgement our businesses during this time, where a lot of businesses have been folding up, have reinvested in their business and their communities. You can look at it that way and support it that way. If you wanted to get to distributing the third one, the other option would be you could still give some, provide some to people. You could put some in the vault for the next 50 years. Because one of the things mentioned, like if you give people who may have gotten one in the last, since 1982, they're giving out this one, or 83. 50 years from now, they could be extremely valuable, and that could be the first fundraiser for the new goose, goose number 4. So there are different ways of looking at it. I would ask you to think about it, talk to people, see what you'd like to do. We can just carry on as we are, or we could do something special with it to acknowledge it. Comment on that? Yeah.
I'd just like to acknowledge your suggestion that I've got many compliments on the main drag coming in. Many compliments of all the businesses, even the ones that, okay, they got in on the bandwagon and they painted their yards and they put new lines in them. Like, and the Bird and then the Outdoorsman and even all the other motels and businesses spruced up their properties. It just looks really nice.
It catches. It's like one person has done something, and we are looking at ourselves, our own properties, right there. They're making us look at ours and say, can we make ours look better too? Yeah. I think we all have to be on that. But yeah, it's been tremendous. And I find even driving around town that and I've had that comment. People. I've had one person say to me, I really feel great. And all was making me feel good. The town looks so good. And
So that's
absolutely true.
I get on Mission Road, I see people using bicycle lanes.
Yeah.
And there's Kenny Martin's little go-kart there. To see Mrs. Bella. Yeah. And they're safe now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Diane Spencer, so you're driving down on your bike.
It's nice to see them going in the right direction, though.
Well, there's
the kids just racing down the wrong way, but.
One star.
Yeah,
Start somewhere.
Yeah.
Not enough arrows.
Put the speed spy on them.
I never had the speed spy.
But it'd be nice to acknowledge that, give those prints and present them for the.
Yeah, you know what I'd like to see is that would go, I mean, I don't think we could frame them all, but I would like to see a letter that we would write, signed by all of council and even, the staff want to sign it to acknowledge those businesses that would go with them. If they print it, you could always put the letter in a sleeve and put it on the back, but to acknowledge it and write it out. So give it some thought. We'll bring it back in August, and we can follow up as we get into the full opening. It will be. I'd like to see, and if we still have the money in the budget, if we get fully opened, to have something like that where we give that acknowledgement and get some fireworks as well towards the end of the summer. We don't have to stay up to 11:15 like we do in July 1st to watch them. We'll be able to watch them at 8 o'clock if we shoot them off Labor Day weekend.
That's where our nice digital sign at the MMC would be nice.
Yeah.
And flash and all that stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Everyone's are sure impressive.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so that's what they have in those two. 7.5 request to place a small communication dish modem on 96 Broadway, which is second corner down here in that one medical building. Kathy, did you have any other information on that? Or
I'll speak to
Maureen?
it,
Okay.
Mayor. Contour Communications is in desperate need of a location to put a very small satellite dish and a modem to shoot their frequency, their required microwaves to the tower up on the former Algoma Ore property where all our communication devices in the community are set. They've asked for permission to put that at 96 Broadway. So the former medical clinic or the offices of the EDC, a small home-sized satellite dish would go on the outside with the modem on the inside. They're offering a lease amount of $50 per month. We reviewed it with Jam FM because we didn't want them to be harmed with the additional frequencies. And they have reviewed and have no objection to the satellite dish. So if council agrees, we have a resolution, motion, a bylaw, a bylaw on the regular agenda tonight to request that council approve the agreement.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Thank you. Welcome up in the regular. 712 COVID-19 update. We're getting close.
So I just wanted to give council just a quick little update on some of the changes with respect to COVID. As many of you are aware that come Thursday or Friday, July 16th at 12:01, we'll be moving into step 3 of the opening plan. So that will change some of the activities that may occur. Indoor activities will resume with restrictions, including the requirement to maintain physical distancing and wearing of face coverings. There are some exceptions to that rule, of course, when it comes to personal care services. I also wanted to report that the municipality at its last meeting had agreed to allow eating establishments or retail businesses to utilize a portion of our municipal sidewalk to operate their businesses. And we currently have 2 businesses that are using that service. And we have received many positive comments from local businesses allowing the patio restaurant. And I just wanted to report that I personally did receive 1 phone call from a local business thanking the municipality for taking that step. We were very pleased that the municipality agreed to allow them to use the sidewalk. With respect to vaccinations, I'm sure everyone is aware that 50% of Canada has received, or Ontario has received the second shot of their COVID vaccine. So that's wonderful news for the province of Ontario and Canada as well. In the Algoma region, we are currently sitting at 80% that have received their first vaccine and 51% that has received two vaccinations. Our community control group was meeting twice monthly, and we've now decided that we are going to reduce that, the calling of those meetings. We're just going to provide everything in writing to the members of the control group, and we'll resume the meetings in the fall of the year unless something comes up where we need to pull the group together quickly. We continue promoting all the information with respect to COVID on social media and our website, and it is kept up to date. We are continuing with our meetings being held through the Zoom conferencing. However, with the changes to the moving into step 3, we do have the ability to allow the public to return to our meetings. However, we will be required to wear masks, and this is something that Maury and I will talk more about and have a recommendation for council at its next meeting. And that's pretty much it. It's just exciting to know that the province is slowly reopening and indoor activities will be resuming.
And Mayor, I've asked Alex Patterson to provide a quick update to council about the plans with the community center, as he has a draft reopening plan, version 100 maybe, Alex. So if you wouldn't mind, Alex will speak to what the community center plans are.
You just said his name and he appeared on.
Can I just ask?
You guys can hear me okay?
Yeah, just 1 second, we have one question. section on the last item, and then we'll get to you, Alex.
Very good.
Did it ever slip out of my head? I'm so sorry, Kathy, I'll think about it and ask you after. Go ahead, Alex.
Go ahead, Alex.
Okay, so the reopening happened a lot quicker than we expected. We were looking at August for the stage 3, so it's good news for us. So we're planning on the Monday, next Monday, to reopen the doors to the community center for people to drop in for information, payment services, tourist information, things like that. We're also, we have a draft plan. Unfortunately, it's not in front of council right now because I finished it this afternoon. I'm still waiting on some review from Algoma Public Health, but we're expecting to have that to council for the next meeting. We already had plans to do some indoor recreation under the day camp guidance. So luckily now that means that those plans are just easier for us to do. So we have some youth recreation programs where indoor spaces are required, which we're able to move forward with starting June 19th. And then we've also got some social services that we had discussed with Algoma Public Health, and they had already given us approval for, such as Minds in Motion and some other seniors programming. So basically next week, what we're looking at is to get this reopening plan approved, as well as to flesh out any of the changes that we need to do for some of our programming. And then after that, we're looking at reopening some of the services that are more popular in the summertime. So of course, this isn't going to affect things like the date of ice or anything like that, because that doesn't happen in the summer. So those two services would be the gym and the special function rooms. And we expect that if everything goes well with Algoma Public Health, we should have those open by the start of August. That will be the core of our services for the summer, which is the gym and the special function rooms. We're also going to send this plan to user groups, and we expect a full reopening of the community center come September, which is when our traditional programming starts up.
Any questions, Ron? So the government was going to, after 3 weeks after this Friday, they're going to look at the next stage. So are you anticipating, Alex, that it's going to be business as usual as we get into the fall?
I'm not going to be that optimistic. I think I'm cautious that we'll have limited things. So in our reopening plan, by the looks of stage 3, we're able to get rid of facility sections so people can walk in the facility as normal and it's not as closed off. There's also a reduction in the cleaning required, which is going to be good for our budget as well as for our staff time. So we likely won't have to do like a major cleaning like we did in between user groups, but I still think there's going to be things like masking and social distancing that are going to be required. I think the biggest question is going to be in terms of team sports, whether leagues are going to be able to go ahead outside of health units, because those are some of the issues that we had last year, and what the league sizes will be, because last year they were limited to 50. And the hope is that with more of the province vaccinated, that'll open up a little bit and we'll start to be able to see some of the things that we missed last year, like bonspiels and tournaments and things like that.
Well, we are certainly hoping that we can get back to as close to normal as possible as soon as possible. So we appreciate all your efforts. You know, I was commenting earlier to someone as to how good of a job our community did in terms of keeping all of our residents safe, and certainly the municipality had a big role in that as well. And in particular, we were able to keep people safe, but we still provided services. You know, our offices were open, our facilities were open, and we had good plans in place, and they were monitored properly. And appreciate all the work you do, Alex, and your staff. And hopefully we'll continue to do that great job and provide service for our community members. So thank you. There are no other questions. Thanks, Alex.
Thank you.
Kathy, do all people that own businesses have to wear masks?
Yes, face coverings are still required indoors.
And if they don't? Who
It would be Algoma, it would be public health.
Public health, probably. If you want.
Public health would address the matter.
Yeah, I just heard. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So was Alex's update part of COVID-19?
Yes.
Okay. So there's no in-camera, no business arising. Our next meeting is Tuesday, August 10th. And we will adjourn at 7:54, moved by Mitch, all in favor. Carried, thank you. We can go straight to our regular. We'll call the meeting to order at 7:55. Note all members of council are present. Any disclosure in your interests? Sorry, Kathy, did you give me enough time to switch over? Approval of agenda. We have a resolution.
Moved by Councillor Chason, seconded by Councillor Reese, resolved that the agenda for the regular meeting of council scheduled for Tuesday, July 13, 2001 be approved as amended.
All in favor? I did ask for disclosure in your interest. I caught something from Okay, there are no delegations or presentations, announcements, and giving notice. Does anybody have an announcement? There are notices of meetings. If you'll note that some of them, the next time they occur is in September. So enjoy the summer before it's over. And we've been having a great one. Resolution to adopt the minutes.
Moved by Councillor Reese, seconded by Councillor Chason, resolved that the following minutes of the meeting of council be adopted as presented. Minutes of a public meeting under the Planning Act held on Tuesday, June 15, 2001 is contained on pages 1 to 2, inclusive of the minute book. The minutes of a regular meeting of council held on Tuesday, June 15, 2001 is contained on pages 1 to 9, inclusive of the minute book. Minutes of a special meeting of council held on Thursday, June 24, 2021 is contained on pages 1 to 3, inclusive of the minute book.
Any questions? All in favor? Carried, thank you. Correspondence, there are several items there for your attention. If anybody have any comment or question with regards to any of the correspondence?
How does that do it? Like, it seems like they've had a tremendous amount of pressure.
They're working well. Certainly with Ed said one of their roles is to manage some of the program funding that the government gives out, and because of COVID, there's been a lot of issues. But like everybody else, they're working extremely hard and staying on top of what the responsibilities are. Great place.
I just wonder.
Yeah.
And Mayor, if I may take a moment to point out 7.3 that the municipality was successful in accessing a modernization grant of approximately $80,000 to fund the a modernization study that Government Wayfinders is completing for the municipality. We did apply for this back in December, January, and just received notice now. So we're very pleased and thankful that the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Provincial Government approved our application.
Oh, that's
Great. Thank you. Resolution to approve the consent agenda.
Moved by Councillor Reese, seconded by Councillor Chason, resolved that the items listed under consent agenda, items 8.2 and 8.3 be approved as recommended.
Questions? All in favor? Carried, thank you. Resolution to receive the staff reports.
Moved by Councillor Reese, seconded by Councillor Chason, resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the Municipality of Wawa does hereby receive the following committee reports. A, Police Services Board, March 10, 2021. B, Heritage Committee, March 30, 2021. C, Algoma Public Health Board Meeting, April 28, 2021. That's not what you want me to read. Sorry. I'm going to go back. I was reading the resolutions under the consent agenda. My apologies. The resolution for the staff reports are as follows. Moved by Councillor Reese, seconded by Councillor Chason. Resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the Municipality of Wawa does hereby receive the following staff reports, a copy of which are attached here too. A and B 2021-04, report new optimal small business property subclass. B and B 2001-05, semi-annual financial report. D, DB 2021-06, report for the month of April, May, and June 2021. D, AD 2021-01, report for the month of June 2021. E, CC 2021-06 waiver of rental fees for provincial offences court, COVID. F, CC 2021-07 COVID update, July 2021.
Questions? All in favor? Carried, thank you. There's no business arising in the meeting under new business. We have a resolution to accept the staff recommendation regarding the waiver of rental fees for the provincial offences office.
Moved by Councillor Tate, seconded by Councillor Hatfield. Whereas in March 2020, the municipality of Wawa declared an emergency and temporarily closed many of its facilities due to the COVID-19 pandemic. And whereas the pandemic has changed the way the municipality conducts its business and financially impacted it through the loss of rental income. And whereas due to the pandemic, provincial offences court ceased to operate in Wawa since March 2020. And whereas the City of Sault Ste. Marie Provincial Offences Court utilized the facilities, the council chambers, and the municipal building for 5 days in 2021. However, it was invoiced for the entire year for court usage in accordance with bylaw number 3332-20. And whereas the City of Sault Ste. Marie Provincial Offences Office has requested the municipality to prorate the 2020 Provincial Offences Court rental rate based on 7 days and refund the balance of the monies paid to the municipality being $2,112.77. Now therefore be it resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the Municipality of Wawa does hereby authorize the refund in the amount of $2,112.77 for the 2020 rent receivable from the City of Sault Ste. Marie Provincial Offences Court and waives the requirement for the Sault Ste. Marie Provincial Court to be invoiced for the facility rental for the year 2001 until such time as the POA court resumes service in the municipality of Wawa.
I think you read 2001, you meant 2021.
Yes, 2021.
Okay. Questions? All in favor? So there's nothing in the notice of motion. Bylaws.
Moved by Councillor Hatfield, seconded by Councillor Tate. Resolved that the following bylaws be introduced and read a first, second, and third time and finally passed, and that the mayor and clerk do sign and seal the same. Any rule of this council to the contrary notwithstanding. Bylaw number 3411-21 to confirm the proceedings of council held on its meeting held on the 24th day of June 2021 and 13th day of July 2021. Bylaw number 3412-21 to authorize the corporation municipality of Wawa to enter an agreement with 129-12643 Canada Inc. to provide fire protection services to the plant facility located on Highway 101, Wawa, Ontario. Bylaw number 3413-21 to authorize the municipality of Wawa to purchase land located at 84 Broadway Avenue from Helen Camp. Bylaw number 3414-21 to authorize the sale of municipal land at 39 Broadway Avenue in the municipality of Wawa to Basic Building Supply Inc. Bylaw number 3415-21 to establish and appoint marina committee for the municipality of Wawa. Bylaw number 3416-21 to authorize the corporation of the municipality of Wawa to enter into a lease agreement with Quatra SCS Limited respecting the lease of land located at 96 Broadway Avenue, Wawa, Ontario. Bylaw number 3417-21 to authorize the sale of municipal land located at 300 and 314 Blue Crescent in the Mishpecotton River Village in the municipality of Wawa to Dale and Karen Goodwin.
Any questions?
What is the one on Highway 101?
The former Rentec facility.
No.
Okay.
We have agreements with various organizations. That's not. Okay, I'll call a question. All in favor? Carried. We are going to move into closed session. We have a resolution for that.
Moved by Councillor Tate, seconded by Councillor Hatfield. Resolved that this committee proceed in camera at 8:03 p.m. in order to address the following matters: to a legal issue, personnel issue, labor relations, or employee negotiations.
All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Thank you, Kevin. Still there? See you on the board.
We just need 1 minute to go
We need
back.
to move back into. There is no business arising from the closed session. Our next meeting will be Tuesday, August the 10th, 2021. We have a motion to adjourn.
Moved by Councillor Hatfield, seconded by Councillor Tate. Resolved that the meeting close at 8:27 p.m.
All in favor? Carried, thank you.